Wish, Chansey, and Blissey is something you've probably seen quite a few times on Pokemon Showdown, the #1 place to play competitive singles. The popularity of the move itself can vary. For example, it's not too common in Generation 8 but is still usable, but is definitely common in competitive Generation 3 Pokemon. The merits of the move itself are undeniable. Chansey has a huge HP stat and Wish recovers based on the user's HP, i.e. a Blissey's Wish can heal close to 100% health for most Pokemon instead of 50%. But how exactly do you teach Blissey Wish? It's not a level up move, Blissey can't learn it from a move tutor, and there's no TM for it. Most competitive singles Pokemon is played on online simulators like Pokemon Showdown, and simulators only care about whether something is theoretically legal or not how difficult it is to get it. And theoretically, you can have a Wish Chansey. In fact, there are some very common move and Pokemon combinations in the competitive metagame that are difficult to obtain in real life. Wish can be a go-to move, but where do you go to find it? And if you like my content, subscribe to the channel. A lot of you are not subscribed and would really help me out if you do. Many moves are locked away behind event Pokemon. In modern times that often means an easy to access event over Wi-Fi, but in the past you may have had to physically go to a location in order to get an event Pokemon. If you want your Blissey to have Wish in Generation 8, you had to have been in New York in 2004. Wish Chansey was released as an event Pokemon at the New York Pokemon Center, which closed in 2005. From December 16, 2004 to January 2, 2005, if you went to the New York Pokemon Center, you could have received a Wish Chansey as a gift Pokemon from their Gotta Catch 'em All stations in the building. This is interesting because Wish Blissey is a very relevant Pokemon, but it is one of the rarest to actually obtain. It's even doubtful that any perfect IV Wish Chanseys ever existed. Moving a Chansey from Generation 3 to Generation 8 is possible through things like PAL Park, the Poke Transfer Lab, and Pokemon Home, so that's not too difficult. The only challenge is having that event Chansey in the first place. There are a few more rare moves though. One of them is Rapid Spin Golem. Rapid Spin Golem is a very relevant Pokemon in Generation 2 to try and stop Spikes, which is a dominant hazard in the tier. But you may or may not have noticed that Golem does not get Rapid Spin in later generations. It only gets it in Generation 2. That's because Rapid Spin Geodude was only available in a New York Pokemon Center event in late 2002 to early 2003. Because there is no compatibility from Generation 2 to Gen 3, these moves are forever locked away into their Gen 2 forms only. Similarly, Lovely Kiss is a relevant move in competitive Generation 2 because sleep is so good. Even Pokemon like Snorlax can use it. But besides Jinx, most Pokemon only got Lovely Kiss from the New York Pokemon Center, which explains why Pokemon like Snorlax and Nidoking only have Lovely Kiss in Generation 2 and not anywhere else. There are plenty of other moves that are exclusive to the New York Pokemon Center, but most of them are not competitively relevant. Heal Bell Dragonite is another interesting rare move. Once Dragonite got multi-scale and heavy-duty boots was introduced, it gained a new role. Besides being a Dragonite sweeper, it could also be used as a bulky wall with moves like Roost and Heal Bell, because heavy-duty boots meant Dragonite could keep its multi-scale even versus Stealth Rock. However, to get Heal Bell, you have to purify a Dragonite in Pokemon XD for the GameCube and transfer it over to a Game Boy game. Then you could follow the series of steps to move it to Generation 8. This is less rare than the event Pokemon because it's still possible to get one today, it just requires some effort. The purification method also gives Heal Bell to other Pokemon like Mightyena, but Dragonite is definitely the most relevant user of it. In 2003, Bagon got access to Wish through an in-person event in Japan for 4 weeks in 2003. If you weren't there, there would be no other way to get a Wish Salamence. Wish itself is an uncommon move on Salamence, but it's not totally unseen either. Salamence is most known for being a Dragon Dance sweeper, but it also makes for a good defensive defogger with Roost and Intimidate in the lower tiers. Some teams may opt for Wish on that type of Salamence archetype to provide Wish support for the rest of the team. V-Create Rayquaza is a more modern rare move. V-Create Rayquaza was only available in Japan for 2 weeks in 2012 as an event Pokemon because Rayquaza won a Pokemon popularity contest. V-Create is a huge move to get and is a staple on Rayquaza on Pokemon Showdown as it gives it a strong Fire-type move to hit Steel types who would have resisted Rayquaza's Dragon Flying combination. As a note, if you ever see someone using a shiny Rayquaza, you know that it's not V-Create because the event only distributed non-shiny Rayquazas, and Pokemon Showdown does validate this in their team builder. Eruption is a relatively common move on Heatran, but is only available as an event from a Pokemon Ranger game. That is, Eruption Heatran was only available via a Wi-Fi mission for Pokemon Ranger's Guardian Signs called Investigate the Odd Eruption. This event can no longer be obtained because the Nintendo DS servers shut down years ago. Interestingly, that event Heatran was always a quiet nature Heatran, which made it tough to use competitively because if Heatran is slow, that means it's more likely to get hit before it attacks and thus Eruption's power would be weakened. However, Generation 8 added nature-changing mints, which meant that Heatran could use Eruption with a timid or modest nature and thus became a lot more viable. None of these moves are completely meta-defining, but they are pieces of the competitive metagame, and it's interesting how rare some of these moves actually are when you aren't playing in a simulator. Many of these moves have not been obtainable in years and you need to have gotten them at the time. Do you know any other rare moves that are good in competitive singles that I might have missed? Let me know down in the comments below.